We're going to be resuming. I am not. I'll wait.
My hospital, forget about it.
This is what I do in a 6th grade class, and my kids know that that's time to all settle down and I thank you. It doesn't work with adults. Oh well, especially with adults. All right. So thank you for allowing me to resume being semi-comfortable. And I'm told that we have another witness who's going to be coming. You said Rabbi Weinberger?
Kaufman, please.
I apologize. Rabbi Yehiel Kaufman is going to speak next. So just so we're super clear, I'm not going to, I don't mean to cut any testimony off or limit anyone. I would ask people to be mindful and respectful of time as I attempted, and that's my intent. And if we can all keep that as our focus and our intent to be respectful, as we go forward with the remaining witnesses. And Rabbi Kaufman, are you?
Hearing Officer Short, if I may, just for the record.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a request that the hearing officer take in under advisement the text of 0606 at page 5030, which says the complete application is the basis for the demonstration of need. In the public hearing, the applicant may be restricted to corroborating and or explaining the data therein. And I would ask that we proceed accordingly going forward. And I would further ask that any additional information that has been testified to be disacknowledged by the hearing officer in his consideration.
Okay. You're also asking me to unring a bell, but I'm going to try and do that anyway. So we had a brief conversation between yourself, if I'm not right, Mr. Reisner, and Mr. Deering, that if there seems to have been some information that is new, according to the rules, that was not contained within the application in chief that was submitted when it was submitted, that you will advise so that it will be as best not considered when I am making my recommendation to the Amos Committee, and the Amos Committee will then be advised and instructed not to consider something that was not in the original application. Is that consistent with what we have discussed, Mr. Eisner?
I believe that is what is consistent with your proposal, hearing officer.
And is that consistent with 0606?
I don't believe that there is language within 0606 that speaks to that technical procedure.
I agree, but are we okay? Are we with the spirit?
I am hesitant to say that we are.
Okay, so what am I doing wrong? And keep it less than an hour.
I think that the key is that, as the hearing officer, you need to exercise your discretion to limit the testimony to corroborating or explaining the content, the data within the application.
All right. So here's what I can't do. I can't. I'm not going to go and shut down someone who's testifying and speaking from the community because they're speaking from a place which is not legalistic, where you, I, and Mr. Deering are coming from. So I think I would be wrong if I were to shut them down. I'd ask them to be concise. I think that would be appropriate. I think that certain things will have more weight than others, and if something is irrelevant, it's not going to be considered. I think wisely so. And I think on that basis, I don't want to be curtailing speech or otherwise.
I agree with that. And I note that this portion of 0606 that I cited pertains to the applicant only, not people from the community speaking in support.
Okay,
and I do particularly take issue with some of the testimony that's been given today on behalf of Ezras Nashim, however. And I would ask that that information is disregarded to the extent that you, as the hearing officer, are able to ascertain that it is not explaining or clarifying the information in the application.
I will do my best, and I trust in your good offices that you'll be able to identify for me what you feel would be inappropriate, and you'll let me know in a timely fashion once you get a copy of the transcript.
I will be happy to do so.
I'm hopeful. I'm not going to rely on you. No disrespect. I will do my own best. Not that I don't mean to be at all disrespectful. I will do my best on my end. I'm not going to wait for you, but I'll do my best to separate wheat from chaff, if we can use that analogy, But if you need to just identify and help me, I'll accept from council as well. Mr.
Thank you,
Deering.
Mayor. And if I could just make a point, the information that's provided on behalf of Ezras Nashim has been corroborating and explanatory with regard to the application. And I would just like the opportunity that if my adversary is going to make an argument that something for some reason isn't that, I really need the opportunity to respond to that.
Oh, I absolutely want you to. I absolutely want you to. So it's not unilateral. It's definitely, you both are. Again, I'm looking at this in a very holistic approach. I'm looking at this from substantive justice. I'm looking at this so that the community is heard. There was the applicant, one of your supporters had made a comment about the 12 ladies or ladies from Borough Park. I appreciate the fact that we have the ladies from Borough Park. I appreciate the fact on whatever side that there is this passion, that there is this interest, and I thank everyone here from wherever you are and whatever your viewpoint, and it's again, it's appreciated that it's being done with respect.
Sure.
And I'm going to try and maintain that with myself, and I hope that spirit is emanating from me as well. All right, and you said that Rabbi Kaufman is ready.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Rabbi. Good evening again. And Rabbi, I'm not going to curtail you, but just I'm sure you'll be.
This is not a sermon. It's not.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
First of all, I'd like to thank the hearing officer for allowing me to speak today and in such an advanced format. I know the other people who are ahead, but I'm sitting here patiently listening to the passion, listening to the women here who are so concerned about sneeze, modesty. These are our mothers, these are our grandmothers. They reflect the whole basis of our Judaism. They reflect what we stand for. These are the people who are the ones who are the yesod, the foundation of our houses and our households. And that's why we are the way we look in certain areas, not better, not different, but that's the way that's why our mothers went to the fire for modesty, and God forbid for anything else. And there's stories and stories and stories. However, I'm here today. My name is Rabbi Yechiel Kaufman. I'm a lifelong member of this community, and I was asked by the leading rabbis of our communities, rabbis who represent the majority of the Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish population residing in Brooklyn, New York's community, who respectfully request that the council member consider the letter signed by them and send to the council as our position against the approval of Ezras Nashim new ambulance service application currently under review by the council. And I don't envy the two councils here and you, Mr. Hearing Officer, trying to navigate this dangerous terrain of yes, religious, not religious, is it modesty or not modesty? And this is something which is so wholly important to us. And, it's something that we really hold so dear. However, I here represent those rabbis who are the ones who give us those rulings, those ones who interpret to the strictest letter of the law of modesty. And they're the ones who are telling us that in this case, modesty does not apply. And I'll tell you why. As rabbinic leaders of Brooklyn's Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish community, we are charged with and thoroughly familiar with the Jewish laws of modesty, as well as the importance in Jewish law regarding the saving of life and our community's practical needs, which we deal with continuously. We have considered the modesty issue in the overall analysis of the benefits of the community many times over the years, by considering the religious and practical elements and factors in the issue. We have concluded that the associated risk in having two emergency services so disparate and different in their capacities and their abilities to lead and deliver the emergency needs of the one community, those risks far outweigh the benefits of the community. A new ambulance service is a detriment to our community since it adds no help to our community in the provision of emergency service is absolutely not required from a modesty perspective, and in fact reduces the health and safety of the community. This is so since new ambulance services cannot compare to the Hatzola's 50 years of experience in the provision of these services. Its vast network of paramedics, EMTs, and physicians staffing its operation, its speed in responding to calls, its 50 ambulances based in the borough of Brooklyn, and Hatzola's constant upgrading of equipment and expanding of services to meet the needs in our community, which, thank God, is growing. Another problem is the fact that the community is used to dealing with only one phone number for all its emergencies. We are opposed to the Ezras Nashim new ambulance service application primarily for the following reasons. Number one, Chevra Hatzola, which is the primary EMS service utilized by the Civic and Orthodox Jewish community throughout the city of New York, has for the past 50 years provided and continues to provide unparalleled care with the shortest response time of any EMS system in the United States. The average response time in the community for emergencies is approximately 2 minutes from when the call is received by the Hatzola dispatcher, as opposed to the stated Ezras Nashim response time of 8 minutes and 2 seconds. Hatzola's quick response time is made possible by the large number of individual EMTs and paramedics and over 50 ambulances in Brooklyn alone. At this point in time, and for a good additional period, a new service cannot meet this level of service, thereby imperiling the receiving community. Number two, having multiple volunteer EMS services operating in and servicing the same community will cause confusion as to whom to call an emergency, thereby causing delays in providing emergency care and potentially causing catastrophe. Additionally, when an emergency occurs, multiple agencies will be routinely called, namely both Hatzola and Ezras Nashim services. This will reflect itself in overuse of the two services for no good purpose. Number three, we disagree with the Ezras Nashim claim that patients feel humiliated when treated by neighbors. Hatzola members act with the utmost sensitivity and confidentiality. They are professionals of the highest caliber and with continuous emergency medicine and sensitivity training, to the point that when a Hatzola member receives a phone call that there is an emergency and he sees that call, that this may be someone who knows him intimately or as a neighbor, he made sure to pass it over to the next one who's right there, not wasting any time, because he's sensitive to the fact that the person may not want to be serviced by him on the scene. Number four, and this is the last one. We are deeply disturbed by the allegation raised by Ezras Nashim in regards to Hatzola. Hatzola is an organization that has been instrumental in our community for the last 50 years, treating men, women, and children alike, and has saved and continues to save countless of lives on a daily basis. Reiterate that from the modesty perspective of Jewish law, there is no need to form another organization. It is therefore the steadfast position of the leading rabbis in our community, rabbis who represent a majority of constituents of Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish population residing in the Brooklyn, New York community, rabbis whose counsel and advice are sought all over the world, people who are luminaries in the Jewish law and Jewish jurisprudence, especially those pertaining modesty, because that's the code, what we live by and we die by, modesty. They have come to the conclusion that granting Ezras Nashim an ambulance certificate will be detrimental to our community and culture, and respectfully ask that you deny this application.
Thank you, Rabbi. Yes, sir.
Oh, Rabbi.
Rabbi, we do have an opportunity for questions if...
And Rabbi, I'd like to respectfully ask you some questions. Did you speak with Ezras Nashim prior to signing that statement?
No,
Did you speak with Hatzalah prior to signing that statement?
I spoke with community members. Some of those community members may be members of the Tzolls, but I spoke with community members. And the rabbis, that's the one predominantly who I spoke to.
Did any of those rabbis speak with anyone from Ezras Nashim to ask their side?
I have no idea, and I think that that's for a different discussion, not for this board, to make peace between the two
Well,
of us.
I think it's a different issue. My understanding, and by all means, my understanding is a matter of Jewish law to make a decision that it's custom or law to get input from both sides. Is that true?
100%.
And so why didn't that happen here?
I believe that the rabbis who are members of the community are well versed in this situation. As you've heard from the previous speakers, this has been going on for 5 years and maybe even much longer. And they have a very detailed knowledge of what's going on. And I think that that is the basis of their comments in this letter.
And a few more questions. The letter indicates that there's been a determination that modesty doesn't apply. That's a determination from the standpoint of Jewish law. Is that correct?
In an emergency situation, when volunteer emergency professionals come in a life-threatening situation, then that's what you have to think about first.
Sure. And so that's as a matter of Jewish law. So in other words, the statement made by the rabbis that modesty doesn't apply, that's a conclusion based on Jewish law. I'm just trying to understand that that's a Jewish legal.
That's what the rabbis deal with.
Okay, sure. And so that's a Jewish legal determination, but then how do those rabbis trump the feelings of the women from a cultural standpoint? You might conclude that it's legally okay, but the whole issue here is that culturally they feel it's not okay. And I'm just wondering, and I'm just putting it in context and respectfully, but how can a group of men determine what's appropriate for women?
Okay, a very good question. The Jewish life circulates around the Jewish law. Jewish law is interpreted by the rabbis for everyone, from conception till death, whether it's an end-of-life issue or beginning-of-life issue and everything in between. Whether it's a business that you go to, whether it's a marriage that you go to, everything is consulted with the rabbi, and the rabbi, based on his knowledge of the Torah and rules, gives his ruling what it should be. And therefore, this has been going on for generations. Number two, the rabbis have women too. They have wives. They have sisters. They have daughters. They have neighbors. They have mothers. They don't live in a vacuum. They know what it is a woman's life. Take a look at the thousands of women who support our Torah members. Every single one of them is a woman who has the same feeling as every woman who comes here passionately talking. They're not there. You know why? They're at home to take care of their kids while their members, their husbands, are at Hatzalah. So it's not in a vacuum. Rabbis do not pass on. If I want to clarify the statement before, I spoke to the community leaders, some of whom may be Hatzalah members. I just don't want you to think I don't keep the Hatzalah members. I want to make it very clear so that, I did have and as far as Nashim is concerned, I read about it in the papers. I looked it up in certain articles that they wrote up. And I think they're great people.
Oh, sure.
And they're very dedicated. You saw the passion.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. You could cut it, you could pick it up with a spoon. It was there. It was there. However, no one's denying that. And no one wants to, in 1 minute, in the least way, to diminish that compassion. Those are our mothers. These are my daughters. These are the people, exactly what you heard expressed over here. Throughout the generation and the millennium until the Messiah will come. However, we need to follow the dictums of the rabbis who interpret these laws. And in this case, not in all cases, modesty is the greatest thing that we live and die by. But in this case, they have determined that when it comes to an emergency situation, then you cannot look at modesty and, God forbid, leave alone the emergency case. Now, We heard of a Hatzalah member who did not want to touch this lady because of his religious restrictions. Well, I don't think 99% of Hatzalah members would do that, because they know that life is the most important thing in Jewish law. We can violate the whole Torah in order to keep life. And that's why on Shabbos, the highest and the biggest and the holiest day of the year, on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, the highest, holy of holiest day, you see Hatzalah members running out there, desecrating the Shabbos, desecrating, trying to save lives. Because lives is the most important. And when it comes to modesty, which is extremely important, in contrast with saving lives, our rabbis have ruled that that does not apply in this case.
Thank you. Let me ask you this question too, and it's my last one. So, if I could, I'm trying to figure out the best way to pose it, but what we've heard today is that because of the cultural concept of modesty, that some women, even though there might be an exception in Jewish law, if they're treated by a man in an emergency situation, they can feel a level of trauma. And so it's like a secondary, a second injury to whatever their other injury is. Do you think that, you mentioned response times with regard to ambulances. Do you think that faster response times trump a secondary injury as a result of those services?
Well, I just know common sense would dictate. If a man or woman needs to get to the hospital, you get them as quick as you can. And you don't have anything blocking you from getting them to the hospital. That's common sense. I'm not sure what would trump what not. You're dealing with feelings of individual people. And then you're dealing with community application. These are two different things that have to be noted. Yes, there may be some people who feel that way. However, we're talking about a direction to take for the community in order to be culturally sensitive to the religious needs. And to that point, the idea of modesty, when somebody's life is in danger, then a person has to deal with that situation first.
And then one more question.
No problem. I have all night, that's what I'm speaking.
So if a segment of the community feels that because of their value of modesty, and it can be traumatic to them, why shouldn't they be given the choice to fill the need where they don't have to go through that trauma?
May I suggest that the segment of the community that feels that they have been traumatized by male servicing them in an emergency situation, I think they need to speak to their rabbis. I need to talk to them about it and find out what to do about it. I'm sure that if they band settled down together, they would come to some compromise situation. It's always been that way. But we're not talking about individual feelings now. I respect individual feelings, and that person, that woman who's been traumatized, I feel terrible, and I understand them 100%. But that's not the issue, the individual. The issue is the community. Thousands of women who are represented by Hatzalah, the thousands of women who are held by Hatzalah, the thousands of letters that came into Hatzalah in the last 50 years about women who are so grateful and glad to have such kind of a service. Those are the people that we need to take into the mix also. But I definitely feel that women who does feel traumatized, yeah, we need to help them too. There's no question about it. We need to deal with it. But that's not the issue now. That's a different issue.
No, please. Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rabbi. Yes,
I think it's
sir.
the most efficient way to do it.
Go ahead.
Rabbi, you've been here for the testimony earlier this evening,
Yes.
and there was testimony that Ezras Nashim was told by the rabbis to start their entity. Did you hear that?
Yes.
And what was your take on that?
My take on that was, I don't get involved when two rabbis have a dispute. But I would tell you this, that you have to look at the context. I believe that if there's a conflict between rabbis, then we need to send all the rabbis together. They should sit down and work it out. I do believe that what happened, and this is only my own personal assertion, I cannot tell you that this is what happened, Ezras Nashim, it's like, you know, the idea of it is like apple pie and motherhood, you know? People have big people and feeling comfortable about it and so on. And they went to certain rabbis, not in the community, basically outside of the community. Venerable rabbis who have signed the letters. I haven't seen any letter from the community rabbis, maybe you've gone, but I haven't seen, is there a community rabbi who signed? I haven't seen it. I can just testify from what I've seen. Could have been they went to the right local rabbis. And they told them about the idea. In concept, it may be a great idea. In reality, it smacks in the face of what we're doing now and the great services and medical attention that the community is getting now. So we have to somehow bridge the gap between a good concept and reality. We are talking now about reality, not concepts. Concepts is a different form, which one day we may gap, we may bridge. Believe me, it's very difficult for me to stay here. And the reason why it's difficult is because these are my sisters. These are my people, and I understand them. And they're dying for the same cause my children would die for. No question about it. However, the same people who would interpret the laws of modesty are saying that in this case, we have to overlook that for the moment to save the precious life of human beings.
Thank you, Rabbi.
A quick follow-up.
But also save questions, please.
I'm gonna,
True?
go ahead.
One more.
Quick follow-up.
Hi, Rabbi, one more question.
No problem.
How come Hatzalah doesn't accept women members?
If you know.
You got about an hour and a half.
Nope.
Look, we're not here to go into the concepts, principles, policies of this wonderful organization, the holy of holies that Jews have, called Hatzalah, as was indicated by all of the women before were speaking. We're not going there now because that's not the right forum. I'll invite you to my house over tea or coffee, and I'll invite some other people, and then we can talk about it. But this is not the forum. We're here, as you know, to venture a verdict about a new service. This new service is, in our opinion, my opinion of the rabbis who signed it, 49 rabbis from the community, representing a majority of the constituents of the community. It's of their opinion that this would not be a wise thing to do now. Now, whether they should accept women or not, that's a different topic and subject, which I'd be glad to talk to you about. How much you charge?
Does anyone have, does the ambulance committee have any questions for the rabbi?
No.
All right, I want to thank the rabbi. You're very engaging, and thank you for your time. Who do we have next?
Okay, so
Frank,
Yes, sir.
can we return to our, the original
Yes,
question?
Jim still had questions. And I want to return to the, your three, the three ladies. Jim had not finished, Mr. Downey had not finished questions. I apologize, Jim. I apologize.
Microphone?
We're talking about Ms. Levine, Ms. Pomerantz, and Mrs. Spry. And Jim has some questions for you. If you like to either approach, or I can provide you with the microphone from where you are, or if you can, Mr. Deering, if you got the microphone.
Here's the microphone here.
The microphone's over. You want to bring it over to the